How you doing? Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. Well, it's pre-recorded. And today, I'm going to be covering some ghost stories. Now, before I get started, these are not from me. If you're interested in ghost stories, I have been telling them on and off on this channel for 8-10 years. But I have a lot of people who are interested in that kind of stuff. So, I've had a lot of emails come in, and I just put them aside. I read them, and I always said, hey, when I run out of my own material, then, I'll start telling some of these other ghost stories.
Are you the kind of person who's run out of feelings to hurt?
Yeah. Wah.
Then we have the Redonkulas swag for you. And we have multiple locations where you can get it. Go to the Stream Elements store or Crypto Fashion and embrace your inner fat punisher. Because after all,
there's a little bad pop in all of us. Even your mother.
Shirts, stickers, mugs, and hats are on sale now. Your support helps keep us independent from big tech and keeps this life-saving train on the tracks. Links are in the Meat Gazer box.
These took place in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, the one in Afghanistan, it's really weird because it comes from two brothers. The older one went in the Marine Corps, and the younger one followed him into the service, but went into the United States Army instead. Now, the way it worked out, both of these brothers literally served in the same area 1 year apart. All right. So what I'm going to talk about here is it's called the Korangal Outpost, or the way the Russians referred to it as the Valley of Death. Because when Russia invaded Afghanistan, they got their asses handed to them in this particular valley. They took a lot of casualties throughout their entire invasion, occupied, whatever you want to call it, that they attempted to do. All right, now, for whatever reason, Afghanistan has literally been a battlefield for almost every empire since Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great fought his way through Afghanistan so he could go on to fight India, where he eventually died from some kind of illness. What I'm trying to say here is that area, all of Afghanistan, is just a huge cemetery. It's got a large amount of pain and suffering and violence that has taken place in that accursed land since the beginning of time. Now, I never went to Afghanistan, and I'm glad I didn't. Because I remember watching the news in 1980, and they were talking about Afghanistan and all of the craziness, and I had a vision that if I went there, I would die. All right? And I've had, while I was in the Army, I had officers approach me and want me to volunteer to go with their unit to Afghanistan. And I told them, sir, if I come down on the roster to go, I'm not going to hide, and I will go. But I'm not raising my hand to go there. Not doing it. So I didn't go. Luckily for me. Now this one, the first brother was 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, and he was one of the guys who did that 28-day foot patrol around that area. And it's like, historically, it's one of the longest foot patrols since Vietnam. And the Marines are good at that. They do a lot of the stuff that is going to get press and what have you. And, and I don't blame them for doing that. And I'm not going to badmouth the Marine Corps because for the most part, I love the grunts. I just don't like their chain of command and the way they run business, but that's another issue. Now, the brother, walked around that accursed valley, during that month, and then I believe they set up the footprint for a future fob that would come after them. And they did a lot of night patrols and patrols during the day. You want people to see you during the day, but not at night. And on this particular instance, he's running a 240 machine gun, right? It's got the night vision scope on the top. Now, he's a Lance Corporal. This guy, not going to use his name. I'm not going to put it in there. Just say, we'll just call them the Smiths. That works. And the way it works in an ambush, it's always started with your most casualty producing weapon. And more than likely, the NCOIC or the officer in charge of that ambush is usually right next to that guy. It could be claymores, it could be mines, flamethrowers, it doesn't fucking matter. The most dangerous weapon that unit has, if it's on the ambush line, that commander will be right next to it. Now, this Lance Corporal is behind his 240, and he was seeing movement on the objective through his nods. Well, his squad leader's right next to him, taps him on the shoulder. He starts putting down suppressive fire. I think a claymore or two went off. Everyone starts shooting because once the big weapon shoots, everyone shoots. And it went on for like 2 or 3 minutes before they gave the ceasefire. And it really unnerved the entire unit because the squad leader saw movement on the objective with his nods they had on his face. The gunner saw the same movement with his nods. Some other individuals who had night vision on, they saw it as well. All right? And when they checked their fire, there was nobody on the objective. Nothing. They literally were shooting at shadows. And they saw many of them because that entire area is infested. I'm just telling you what was written in the letter. And he went on to explain how he saw dozens of these dark black shadows moving around. And occasionally, they'd have a pair of eyes and it would really bug him out. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, Pop, that just sounds like it's so stupid. Yeah. Listen, when I was in Iraq, I already told the story. I literally turned the corner. I'm looking down a hallway that is lit with fluorescent lights. And I saw a black shadow of a man walk across the hallway into an alcove and disappear. I walked there, checked it. There's no way, and if it was a human, there's nowhere he could have went to. So it is a thing, all right? Now, the Marine leaves country, and then in 2006, his brother shows up there who was with, 1st Battalion, 3rd Infantry Division. He was there in June of 2006. I think he was there for 10 months, 11 months, something like that. I don't remember the time frame. Now, by the time you got there, it had calmed down just a little bit. It was still crazy. There was still summer is fighting and winter is off season for these people over there, but it is what it is. And he had to do a couple of unnerving things while he was there. They were expecting an attack from a certain direction on Fob Phoenix. And they sent a squad, this brother was attached to. He was an E4 promotable at the time. And they sent him to an overwatch position. So if things got really crazy, they could hide up there, call in artillery, call in, Cobras and Apaches and even Spectre, the gunship if they need be. And they would not be in the fob, so it would continue if the attack happened. Well, during that night, they saw the shadows, right? The rocks were falling. Granted, they're on the side of a valley, so yeah, things are going to fall. But it was very unnerving because it sounded like footsteps, and they would hear like low voices and murmuring. And the next day, the attack never happened. That par for the course. When you think an attack is going to happen, it almost never does. And then it only happens when you least expect it because that's what the enemy does. It's their job. Okay, I got it. But he goes down there and he finds out that back when Russia was in the same area, there was a big attack, and they had a LPOP where he was at, and they got fucking wiped out by the Mujahideen back in the day. So I just found it's an interesting story that you literally have two brothers, same area, reporting very similar things. And a side note, the older brother wound up getting out of the Marine Corps and was a Lance Corporal. That's a private first class or an E3. The younger brother, who went in the service a little over a year behind him, got out of the service, I believe, an E5. Yeah, sergeant. So there you go. You get promoted in the Army faster than you do in the Marines. All right, second story. This one took place in 2004 when I was there. Now, I was located in and around Victory and Abu Ghraib, which is about 4.5 miles away from Fallujah. I spent a little time in Fallujah, but I was just there running supplies and bringing back wounded and taking them water and stuff. Other than that, that's pretty much the only thing I had to do with Fallujah. But while I was there, they had the Mahdi militia, and they were causing all kinds of problems in the city of Najaf in Iraq. Now, this individual, let's call him Metzger, he was air defense artillery, and he was attached to, 1st Battalion, 5th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cav Division, Bravo. Was it Bravo Company? I think it was Bravo Company. And, they didn't really have a lot of air defense needed because there really was zero air threat in Iraq at the time. So he got the, you're now a Cav man, get on your vehicle, and he reported in. And he was on one of the teams that was used to surround the cemetery known as Wadi US Salame. Apparently, it's the largest cemetery on the planet. It's like 3 miles and some change in diameter, and estimated between 1.2 and 2 million people have been buried there in like the past 200, 300 years. Now, if you're not familiar with how Islam works, when you catch a cap and you get evicted from your meat suit, your friends, family, or comrades will try to have you in the dirt before the sun sets, or at the very least, the very next day. So, I believe that cemetery is probably crazy uber haunted. All right. So, what happened is there was a lot of street fighting going on in Najaf, and the militia basically withdrew to the cemetery. And let's face it, I mean, they had mortars, rockets, snipers, the whole deal. And they moved around in that cemetery because there's catacombs, caves, and tunnels everywhere. And they were causing all kinds of pandemonium. Now, this Metzger guy, I think he told me it started on, like, what was it, 5 August to 9 August, because he got wounded there. And they had to secure anyone from coming out of the cemetery, and they wouldn't allow anyone in. Rightfully so. And throughout it was 4 days, 3 nights. During the nights, he said he saw hundreds of these dark, just jet black shadows. A couple of them had the eyes, you know. And if you don't believe me, you can look at some of those paranormal videos on YouTube. They're speaking Arabic. They're in the Middle East somewhere, and they're, you know, basically doing paranormal investigations. And in some of these videos, you see the black shadows at the eyes. All right. So I don't know. Listen, I'm not telling you it's true or not. I'm just telling you, you know, I watched the video and I'm hearing similar things from an enlisted guy that was there on the ground doing his job. All right. And you're also going to get a different picture when I tell you stories that come from the lower enlisted, because in that world, you don't know the bigger picture. All you know is what your direct leadership tells you, where to be, what to do, what equipment to have. That's pretty much it. So, like, the big picture stuff, they don't know anything about. And he went on doing that, you know, to like the 9th. And he got caught outside his vehicle when a mortar round landed. And one of the bigger pieces of shrapnel hit him in the head. He had his helmet on, of course. And then he caught some on his right side, in his leg, right arm. And the piece of shrapnel that hit his helmet was fairly large, and it fractured his skull. So he got medevaced to the same place I went, which was Langstuhl, Germany, and then later on to Walter Reed, where he went to their TBI clinic to get studied. They did the same thing to me. And he was basically medically separated, mainly because of the fractured skull. It had interfered with some type of circulation that your brain and your spine do to keep spinal fluid to nourish your brain tissue. They were causing pressure problems, and he had to have what's called a shunt put into his head to lower the pressures and keep everything copacetic. The minute they crack your dome, you're undeployable, you're done. And like me, got divorced pretty soon after he returned from Walter Reed, and he lives in a rural area, and this has been 18 years now, and he was reporting in this story that sometimes when he pulls into his driveway at night, he will see the black shadow, either on his property. A couple times he saw it in his own house with the eyeballs. So something followed him home from there. That is your worst fucking nightmare. All right. Now, it's bad enough you go to combat, have to come back and live with it. All right. I couldn't even imagine coming back from combat, having to live with it and combat a TBI while being haunted by some evil motherfucker. That's got to royally suck. Anyway, if you guys like this, let me know in the comments. If you have a ghost story, you can email it to me at redonkulas12@gmail.com. And I will try to get to it and cover it during the show, because this is important stuff. People are interested in it. And these are ordinary, just on the ground pounder kind of guys experiencing supernatural shit. It's happening out there a lot, and a lot of people don't talk about it. Well, I am.